You ever think your worst enemy would be someone who lives just 2 doors down from you? Someone who waves every morning, smiles at your dog, and sends holiday cards, all while plotting to ruin your life behind your back? That's what I learned when I crossed paths with the most manipulative woman I've ever met. And the craziest part? She was the president of our HOA, the person in charge of keeping the neighborhood safe, clean, and in harmony. Her name was Deborah, and Deborah didn't just dislike me, she tried to frame me for theft. But what she didn't know was that I had something she never expected, a hidden camera that would blow her lies apart and bring everything crashing down. It started the way most suburban nightmares do, with a letter. I had just moved into the neighborhood about 6 months before everything exploded. I was renting a home at first, planning to buy later once I got a feel for the place. The house was perfect. Quiet street, good schools nearby, and that classic sense of calm you think only exists in brochures. The neighbors seemed nice, polite waves, friendly nods. But from the very first week, there was one person who stood out. Deborah. She showed up with a welcome basket, red lipstick, platinum hair, and an attitude that practically screamed, "I run this place." Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm the HOA president," she said proudly. "We like to keep things tidy around here." That should have been my first red flag. Over the next couple of weeks, I noticed little things. Notes taped to my door reminding me about trash bin placement. An email about my lawn being 1.5 inches over regulation length, and even a complaint about my American flag being too large for the porch. I thought she was just one of those rule-obsessed types. I complied, not wanting to make waves. But it didn't stop. She escalated. Every week a new complaint, always passive-aggressive, always through official HOA channels. The weirdest part? No one else on the street seemed to be targeted. One guy across from me had junk piled on his driveway for days. Another family played loud music almost every weekend. Nothing, no letters. No warnings, just me. Then one day, my neighbor Mark, who lived next door and had been pretty friendly since I moved in, knocked on my door with a concerned look. "Hey, I just wanted to let you know. Deborah's been asking around about you," he said. "She's been saying some stuff, that you're not the kind of person who fits this community." I was stunned. I'd barely interacted with the woman outside of her notices. Mark shrugged. "She's weird like that. Power trip or something?" I laughed it off at the time. But things took a dark turn about 2 months later. One afternoon, I came home to find a crowd of neighbors standing around my driveway. Police cruisers were parked on the street. I froze, thinking something terrible had happened. As I got closer, Deborah turned to me with a sickeningly sweet smile and said, "We need to speak to you." A local officer approached and asked if he could take a look in my garage. I was shocked. "What's going on?" Deborah stepped in. Some expensive equipment, a professional-grade leaf blower, hedge trimmers, and other gardening tools went missing from Mr. Langston's shed last night. Someone saw a man near his house wearing a gray hoodie. "You were jogging last night, weren't you?" I was, in fact, out for a run, but nowhere near Langston's house. The whole thing felt surreal. The officer was polite but firm. "Would you mind if we just took a quick look inside?" I agreed. I had nothing to hide. But when I opened the garage, my heart nearly stopped. There, on the side wall behind a stack of boxes, was a leaf blower. And not just any leaf blower, the exact model that had supposedly been stolen. I had never seen it before in my life. I looked at the officer, confused and panicked. "That's not mine." "I didn't put that there." Deborah made a little gasping sound behind me. "Oh my, I'm so sorry, but this is very serious. The police didn't arrest me, but they filed a report and told me not to leave town until they wrapped up the investigation." It was humiliating. My neighbors whispered. Kids avoided me. People who used to wave suddenly looked away. Deborah, of course, made a show of being concerned. That night, I sat in my living room, shell-shocked. How the hell did that stuff get into my garage? Then I remembered something, and about 2 weeks earlier, I'd had a suspicious notice from Deborah about my garage door being left open during the night. I'd checked it afterward, and it seemed fine, so I didn't think anything of it. But now, it felt like a setup. That's when I made the decision. If I was being framed, I needed proof. So I installed 3 hidden cameras, one over the garage entrance, one on the side path near my trash bins, and one just above my porch, cleverly disguised in the motion light fixture. I figured if anyone came near my place again, I'd catch them. I didn't have to wait long. Just 4 nights later, at 1:43 a.m., I got a motion alert from the camera over the garage. I sat up in bed and opened the feed. My blood ran cold. There she was, Deborah, wearing dark clothes, carrying a bag. She tiptoed up to the garage, looked around, and walked toward the side fence. 30 seconds later, she emerged, now empty-handed. Then, like some cartoon villain, she took out her phone, snapped a photo of my garage, and walked off. The next day, another letter from the HOA arrived. This one claimed I had excess trash items near my property and that a board investigation would be required. My camera had caught it all. Her planting what looked like garbage bags near my fence line, just minutes before sending that letter. But I wasn't ready to go public yet. I wanted her caught red-handed. Over the next week, she returned twice. One night, she opened my unlocked side gate and walked into my backyard. Another night, she tossed something small into my recycling bin, which I later found was a set of screwdrivers that matched the missing tools list. I had everything on camera, so I called the police. Not the community patrol, the real deal. I showed them the footage. The officers' faces changed immediately. They thanked me and told me to let them handle it. But I had one last thing to do. I requested a hearing with the HOA board. Deborah, smug as ever, agreed. Of course, dear. It's your right. At the meeting, with half the neighborhood in attendance, I stood quietly while she outlined my pattern of behavior. She claimed I'd been disruptive, careless, and uncooperative with community standards. We're simply doing what's best for everyone. She finished with that familiar fake smile. I stood, connected my phone to the screen, and pressed play. The footage rolled. Deborah sneaking through my yard. Deborah planting items. Deborah taking photos, trying to fabricate violations. The silence in that room was nuclear. She tried to interrupt. This is illegal. Actually, I cut in, it's my property. I have every right to install cameras. One of the board members leaned forward and said, Deborah, is that you in the footage? She stammered. This is taken out of context. I smiled. Sure, here's more context. The second video played, her placing items in my garage weeks earlier. Everyone gasped. That was it. The police arrested her later that week on charges of trespassing, harassment, and filing a false police report. The HOA board removed her from her position and banned her from all future leadership roles. But the real fallout? That came later. Turns out Deborah wasn't just a power-hungry HOA president. She had a side hustle, working as a property reputation consultant. Basically, she offered services to help drive down home values, then helped her investor friends scoop up properties cheap. If she could create a problem tenant in a house, the value dropped, and someone got a good deal. She got kickbacks, and I was her next target. The news hit local outlets. The neighborhood was in shock. Half the board resigned. The community held emergency elections. And me? I became a weird kind of folk hero. People I hadn't spoken to in months dropped by to apologize. One even baked me a pie. I declined the HOA leadership offer. I had no interest in power. I just wanted to sleep without wondering if someone was creeping through my yard. Now I keep my cameras up. Not because I expect another Deborah, but because if she taught me anything, it's this. Sometimes the villain isn't hiding in the shadows. Sometimes she's standing in the sun with a clipboard, a fake smile, and a plan to take everything from you, until you turn the lens on her and let the truth shine through.